Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I announced that I'm running for the mayor, seeking the mayor election, after the constant block that they did to load Ross Siemens. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you the establishment of Abbotsford, what had three high major politicians involved, using the community police department for their personal gain and protection, taking something that George Ferguson built away from Abbotsford residents. There was no longer say over our police department. They were used for heinous acts in the elections, heinous threats on residents to come forward with stories and how it was done. There was no policing here. This was made up and polished up by the Abbotsford politicians that needed it, and Abbotsford's black press here, newspaper, Vicky, Hopes, and Ken. I want to elaborate. I did a video a couple of days ago on what took place. My phone being smashed has never been replaced. On Watts. Watts came in here to try to clean up the Abbotsford Police Department in order to try to get it under control. But the men that run the police department, like the investigators, the task force, believe that the image that we paint, if we bring a new chief, we do not want to be removed. I made it clear I need to run for mayor. 90% of them got to be removed. Why I say 90? Because none of the women in there did it. You're talking investigators, officers, and task force that were using the vehicles for their personal use in the company's name to intimidate people and threaten. Henry Brown got in his Alexis car and tried to end my life and put me in a hospital. They did not impound his vehicles because they were a buddy system here. In order for them to stop the scandal or the news from getting out, they figured threats would be more, to do more damage. Gangs are gangs, and gangs will always find gangs, and criminals always think the same. I told you the other day on a video, and I want you to listen very closely, the EDA of Ed Fass that holds Ed accountable, they witnessed this brutality, the block of an election, Henry to load Ross so he could keep job sites, all the acts that took place that are a big no-no. Abbotsford Police, black vehicles, the Ford black vehicles, the task force in front of my house. These men cannot police this town. They don't want it out because it is a total overhaul by the RCMP, have to come in and maintain the body of law. This ain't about the safety of our community. Not one time since I've been on these podcasts has the Abbotsford Police investigators or chief came out to question all the neighbors and all the dignitaries. The company's name will save them every given time, scaring Abbotsford. You need a police force. You need a police force. If we go, gangs will take over. They are the gangs. They are running it. This should not take place on families. You should not block an election. This was a buddy system. When that cop threatened me and smashed my phone and said I was here and he was going to put me in the jail and put the boots to me, he's off the force. You don't need an investigation. Not failing to go over to White Rock to the multi-millionaire and ask him, and you need your cameras and footage, is a way to hold evidence off so you could clean the company for your bloody self because you're stealing. Racing Dodge Chargers, threatening people, it's picking up prostitutes, and stealing 71 million out in the name of policing for a police building when we should be building a jail. Instead, they wanted these luxuries, buying new cars. But mismanagement went through the whole top of Abbotsford Police. I showed you the EDA of Ed's, witnessed this. Even they went into Ed and Ed wanted it covered and stopped. I showed you the elected MLA that sits above these people. They witnessed it. When Ross Siemens' people called Abbotsford First, the city councils what were running a re-election again for Ross, figured they would do Ross a favor by saying I grabbed Sandy Blue on the whipper-whapper. That MLA was there, and that MLA is an elected official. This was a way for Ross to try to get me scandaled so he could win the mayorship. so Henry and the establishment could keep the same plan going for jobs, the fraud, and no accountability. Henry owned these police. They were Henry's loyal servants. I said when Justin Trudeau and the NDP and leaders find out that the federal Conservative candidates are cheating here, I want to show you something. I want you to pay very close attention to this thing. The Abbotsford newspaper, Vicky Hopes, blocked me in the election and wouldn't let me take any advertising, period, because Henry brought the Abbotsford newspaper online with the Abbotsford City in order for it to gain. They would not even print my face in the newspaper or do an interview because they were helping Henry to load Ross Siemens. They did not run the scandals on Ross hauling his gas station to Mission and dumping in Mission so Ross wouldn't be scandaled. They didn't run the articles on our houses being wrecked and all the mud and damage of Henry and his son. They didn't run that Henry's son was in front of him and is wrong. They didn't run that the Abbotsford police threatened. They didn't run that city councils were re-elected again called Abbotsford First, which was his establishment, were in Henry's house passing decisions. But it is the policing's job, a proper police force, to uphold that and make sure. There was no policing here. That's why Henry could get away with it. Now all these people have distanced themselves from not taking pictures with the Abbotsford police. Henry Brown hasn't been here to commemorate the Abbotsford police new building. Ed Fast, nobody. If we distance ourselves, the boys can say that. I don't tell you this is a police department. They're rotten, filthy men that did acts on the community that paid them to make sure that they get a good job. They look after the Abbotsford residents, look after our youth. They were attacking our youth. The chief has made no effort at all to come up to them residents or me or anywhere, because if he figures I can hold off criminal reports on everything, it's too overwhelming with all the eyewitnesses, I'll save the company. It's not about saving the police and company, it's about saving their own ass. I'm running for mayor, you're gone. I'll bring the RCMP in help. Election loading and election fraud and playing an election is a massive thing that you shouldn't do. Abbotsford newspaper is doing this. Black press. I want you to look at it. See that there? Abbotsford newspaper is sponsoring, paid by Abbotsford Black Press. Dave Matty is running for the MP position because Ed's stepping out. And Dave Matty is being paid by Black Press. Let me tell you this. In elections, no companies, no societies, no private organizations or police force or anybody can pay for your campaigns. It is the candidate and the candidate's financial agent to lobby independent people to get checks, and no organizations or non-profits can pay for this. Black Press is paying for the Conservatives to beat all the other parties, the Liberals and the NDP. Black Press is right across the Fraser Valley, paid by Black Press. Tomorrow between 1 and 3 at Garden Park Towers, Dave Matty is paid for by Black Press, will be there. Ed Fast should have put a stop to this. The EDA, Sir James Barlow, is lobbying for Mike de Jong. You're not allowed to lobby when you're the EDA president. Michael de Jong, who's trying to get that position too, also has diverse Ron Funk's people taking him everywhere through Abbotsford when he knew diverse loaded the city councils on their development sites. But today I stand here because that is why this is happening constantly, because they're told by Henry, look away. Ken of the Abbotsford News, Vicky Hopes, and the newspaper reporters know that nobody is allowed to do this, especially in the newspaper. It gives you leverage massively. It persuades their followers, 50,000, to vote for Conservatives and only Conservatives at the federal level and Dave Matty. Tomorrow, I'm told today that they've been working the phone all day to get the major big players. I'm sure the chief here, which calls Watts, cauliflower ears, he'll be present. He aligned himself with Abbotsford News. He knows the story that they blocked. He aligned himself. A criminal will always go before the criminal. That's why he went to Henry's brother Irwin, knowing he was appointed to the APF Foundation. You're not allowed to do that. When Justin Trudeau finds out that Black Press did this, load and paid, you can have your opinion, but you're not allowed to pay and sponsor. He's received thousands and thousands of dollars. His food and everything paid for by Vicky Hopes and Ken. This is why you don't play in politics in a democracy. Now, how did I find this? I want you to explain. The former Liberal MLA was Simon Gibson. When Mike did his bait and switch, Michael DeYoung did a bait and switch and went behind Pamela Alexis to get Simon out and said he didn't sponsor Simon and said, Simon, we're behind you, but he was really behind Pam. It was Darren Brown that showed me. Simon Gibson comes to our houses every day. Well, Simon lost that riding. He re-ran for city council here again, going down one notch. Simon Gibson brought me to this, being a former Liberal, once a Liberal, always a Liberal, I guess, and said, the federal Conservatives are buying, Black Press is paying for it all. This is why Conroy Black went to jail. Vicky Hopes did the same for Ross. Election fraud is election fraud when they stole my signs in this. But Black Press is doing this. Trudeau hasn't got a snowball a hill and chance when the media this way is paying for all your candidates across the Fraser Valley to get seats. This is how they're holding strongholds. Simon told me this after city council meeting. He brought it to my attention and said it needs to be leaked. This is how Vicky Hopes jammed you. But this is why Henry, the establishment, his private security company did this. To the chief of Abbotsford, you owe me a brand new phone and you owe me a camera so I can report these things quickly to all parties. So fairness, and what that word, transparency. But you do not deserve to hold Abbotsford's policing. None of you and none of your men. And staying away from my house and all the witness that witnessed your guys is only trying to save your company. Let me make it clear, Chief. I stand in the World Olympic coat because it brought people together and a community and proud and loyal and honest stuff. Thinking that you cannot be let go. You and your guys are so critical to Abbotsford society. This is why you cannot allow private police to stand because Henry went in and owned them. They were his. They are loyal and only loyal to Henry Brown. They do not do nothing else for Henry Brown. This is why Vicky Hopes doesn't run any stories. Tied with Ken through Rick Rakes to the establishment. You are not allowed to, period, anybody, run and pay for candidates. You must give $1,500 for donations and you must ask individuals privately. These big people in the back are paying for the federal Conservatives to win over everybody else. Pierre Poilievre needs to address it immediately and remove every people that are riding in a riding where Black Press has say. When Justin Trudeau gets this one, he's going to scatter Pierre Poilievre again to the wind because he knew Ed's fast knew and his EDA knows. And Michael DeYoung is now selecting with Sir James Barlow, who's the president of the EDA. Abbotsford is asking for now federal investigations because it tied David Eby. Why did it tie David Eby? This is why David Eby didn't endorse Pam, Sarah Cooner, or anybody else. But this is how it happened, the threats. The Abbotsford Task Force, which drives the black vehicles, is supposed to go after gangs, turned it in on me because I was going to expose that Henry was using the city for lifts for his friends, job sites lobbied, fast-tracking everything for Ron Funka Diverse, which is his partners, to get the newspaper old site, the job site by Bruce's office, and everything else. It's insider trading, and it's racketeering, and it's stopped by great police officers. This is a shithole fucking team of men, propped up and painted up by Vicky Hopes, that is already, the police chief, laid himself in with organized crime. And this dumb clown doesn't know that what Vicky Hopes and Black Press is doing to pay and sponsor the federal candidates that are running is massively an election wrong, and it must be fraud, and you got to be jailed and kicked out from ever running. Their campaign sponsor knows it. David Maddie's people know it, and everybody else. Simon Gibson knows it, but Simon said, I'm a nobody. Nobody listens to me. Vicky Hopes and Ken block me. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I stand firm that the Abbotsford police gotta go. You can't tax your residents and ask your residents to pay you. 71 million frauded, new vehicles, and failing to do any investigations, call anything. It was a group of friends, buddy pals, licking each other's ass to get rich over Abbotsford community. To head fast, you should have put a stop of it. When Trudeau gets wind of that, he's gonna scatter Pierre Poilievre to the wind. That this is what the federal Conservatives are doing and when I was doing it. So I believe, this is what I believe in my opinion, when Trudeau wanted to take Pierre to take a security clearance, it was probably in the best interest to Pierre Poilievre to take this security and clearance because he was going to say to Pierre, you got a problem. Let me tell you, lay a little lower on me and a lighter on me, you let the voters decide who they want. But right now, let me give you some security clearance. Black Press all across the Fraser Valley is paying for all your candidates to run. If that gets out, all them candidates got to go because no companies or financial institutes can pay for any candidate. Tomorrow from 1 to 3, you'll see them all at Garden Park Towers. Every one of them. Loading this guy in. That means that when he gets in as an MP, he owes them all favors and he owes Black Press. I believe Vicky Hopes knows that she interfered in elections and covered up criminal organization from the true law to make Abbotsford residents think that this was a good building. Now, to the police chief, when you stand beside somebody, make sure that you don't stand beside a felon and a criminal. That there tells you, chief, already. You knew about it because your city councillor, Simon Gibson, told me. I believe that that's why Trudeau made it very important that Pierre takes the security clearance right now. The EDA knows about it. I'm live, ladies and gentlemen, here, beautiful Abbotsford, British Columbia.